Hi, I'm Belinda Allen and welcome to Fabric Fibers. What I'd like to do today is show you how to bring in data using the same Power Query experience that you use in Power BI Desktop into Microsoft Fabric using Dataflows. It's very simple. This is great for the person or company that wants to give Fabric a try and experience it using what you already know. So here I am in the Fabric service. We used to call it the Power BI service, so we're going to call it the Fabric service. And you can see I'm using the Fabric trial capacity. What I'm going to do first of all is go to the workspace that I've created that is using that Fabric trial capacity. So I'll go to workspace just like I would for Power BI. It's called Fabric Fibers is my workspace. And when I open it up, you can see I have a couple of artifacts already in here. I have a warehouse that I've created, which is empty. I have a Lakehouse where I brought in my sales lines. I'm going to bring in customers today as I'm working on creating a data model altogether. And then I have a Dataflow Gen2 experience with this DF sales lines right here. So what I'm going to do is bring in another data flow because that is the Power Query experience. This is a great place to start when you're on your Fabric journey and then build into the other options. There are a variety of tools to bring in data or ingest it, and a variety of tools to transform your data. So the choice is yours on which tools to use. It's based on your experience, your preference, and the needs of your data. How big is your data? How complex is your data? All of these things factor into the tool selection. But we're going to start with the one that we already know and love, Power Query Editor. We use it in Power BI Desktop, we use it in Excel, we use it in Dataverse, and there's a couple other places that Microsoft uses it as well. So we're going to start with that experience. Right here in my workspace, this is where I'm going to store my data flow like I did the sales lines. I will come up and click on New Item. And I have it favorited already. If I go over to all items, you could see they're grouped together by categories. Sometimes they'll be repeated, like here's Get Data, here's Dataflow Gen2, here's the original Dataflow, so forth, lots of mirrored options, notebooks, how to store data, and so forth. I'm going to come over to my favorites and simply select Dataflow Gen2, and I'm going to name it. So I'm going to name it DF underscore for data flow, and I'm going to call this one customer. By the way, when you're using Fabric, you want to, in your naming conventions, avoid using special characters and spaces. I know underscore is a special character, but the data source underneath OneLake doesn't see it that way. So we're going to just use that as our space to make it easier for our users. And we'll click on Create. And now it's actually opening up this Power Query experience. To me, it looks like a combination of Power BI Desktop and Query Editor merged together. So we're going to get the data for the customer in using this way. And then for the date, we're going to come back in and get a calendar set up as well, importing a Power Query template. Okay, so we will come up to Get Data like you normally would, and you can see all the different sources that are available to you, and they're grouped together, so it looks very similar to Power BI Desktop. I'm going to come up here and do HTTP, and I could see Web API and Web Page. Now, my customer data happens to be inside my GitHub repository, and what I did is I opened up my data in raw format and copied the URL, and it kind of acts like an API with an anonymous authentication account. So I'm going to go ahead and select Web API, paste in my training URL, and then I'm going to make sure that the authentication kind is set to anonymous, and I'll click on Next. Just like we experience in Power Query in the Power BI Desktop, we get a preview of our data to ensure that's the right data, and it is. So I'm going to just simply come down here in the bottom right and click Create. And now it's going to open up this query to that data in my Power Query experience in Dataflows. All right, and notice how the data flow will keep saving, and then to the left of that is the name of the data flow itself. All right, the data flow came in as query. So I'm going to come over to the query settings, and I'm going to call this customer because that's the name I want this to be. I'm not a big fan of using the dem or fact before the name of the field. I think most people use that in videos and so forth to explain to the watchers. But I don't want to confuse any end users or anyone who may be doing self-service BI. So I try to put the names in as something realistic. But again, no spaces, no special characters. Now for this, I'm going to go ahead and just do a quick run to the right to make sure that all of my data types are right. By the way, your zip should never be a number. It should always be alpha, because it could start with 0 and you don't want it to drop the 0. It could also have the dash and the 4-digit code, or if it's from another country, it'll have letters and spaces in it. All right, so I see my phone number. That's numeric. I think maybe I'm gonna take that out with all the other aging information. Actually, I have 182 columns. That's way too many. So I'm gonna do what I typically do is Belinda's 3 rules. First of all, I'm going to get rid of that default change column type. And now I'm back at the draft column type. And on home, I'm going to do a choose column. So I'll come up and choose columns, and I'm going to select the columns I want. So I'll unselect all and just grab the columns that I want. And maybe I want status. Class. Let me go to class. That's good. Let me get the customer balance, and let me get the credit limit amount. That's good. I'll go ahead and click on OK. So now I'm down to 9 columns. All right, now I want to verify the data types for everything. By default, everything came in as text, but it went ahead after I made those last 2 changes, and it set the credit limit amount and the balance to numbers. It didn't see decimals for the credit limit. I'm going to go ahead and change that to decimal, so just so it's the same number type or data type as my balance, but I will, for both of them in the report, format it to round. I don't like it rounding at the data level because the rounding differences will be too large for that. It'll be much smaller if you round from here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Actually, there were 2 more columns. I should have gotten one called a hold. This is why I do this. And one more too. I wanted to get I think it's active, inactive. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I have the hold and the inactive status here as well. All right, so now I have 11 columns, however you want to do that. Now I said 3 rules. 1 is you name the query to something that makes sense. 2, get rid of unnecessary columns. And 3, verify the column type for every column, because that is going to depend how that field or column will act and react, not how it will appear. We do that in formatting in the data model. This looks great. I'm ready to put it in my Lakehouse. Now we had a Lakehouse and a warehouse, so Fabric doesn't know which one to put it in. So it decides, I'm not putting it anywhere. You have to tell me where to put it. That's just the opposite of Power BI Desktop, because there's only one option, the semantic model. Here we have a couple options. Put it in Lakehouse, put it in the warehouse. I could have multiple Lakehouses. Which Lakehouse would I want? I could even put it in a Lakehouse in another workspace if I want. So by default, it doesn't store anywhere. But I want this to go to the Lakehouse. So from the home menu on the home ribbon, there is an add destination right here. And I'm going to choose Lakehouse. And you'll need to have a connection set up to for you, your login to all the lake houses you have. First time you set it up, it'll look like this. Either way, you only have to click on next. To set it up, you would do the same, click on next. The table name picks up the name of that query, customer, which is fine. I want to create a new table in that lake house. So I'm going to find my workspace, Fabric Fibers, and open it up. And then now I can see the lake house that I wanted to go to. Now when you add a data flow in, it automatically creates a data flow staging lake house and a data flow staging warehouse. We don't want it to go to those. Those are hidden. We want it to go to the Fabric Fibers lake house that I created. So what you see over here are all of the, initially all the workspaces with lake houses in them, and then you can get to whichever lake house you want. It is a new table now. It will, as it refreshes, it will just override the existing table. I'll click on next and I'll click on save because I've already verified all the data types. And now you can see the destination is Lakehouse. And if I hover over it, I get more detail. It's more specific detail. And all I have to do now is click publish. Now what's going to happen is it had already saved in the data flow. So the data flow is now calculating, and then it's going to refresh the data so that it's saving it and connecting it to the lakehouse, and then it's going to do a refresh. Every time a data flow runs, it's just like going into Power Query where you do something in Power Query and it updates, and when you click close and apply in the Power Query desktop, the apply actually pushes the changes through. So that's what's happening here. So once this finishes with its circle, the refresh is now taking over. So you can see it successfully loaded if you saw that in the top right. And now when this finishes refreshing, I can see it in my lakehouse. I'm going to go ahead and click on my lakehouse right now. And now when I open it up, you can see I have customer right here, and I have my sales lines. Now it might say unidentified, and if it does, all you have to do, because you might have opened it up too early, is click on that little ellipsis, the 3 dots, and refresh, and it would get there. And if I expand the customer, I will see all of my fields and the field types right here, including the name changes I made. Or I can click on the field and I'll see a preview of my data right here. Now when this finishes previewing, I do want to bring in my calendar because I think everything should always have a calendar. And in the link below, I give you access to my calendar information. So here are my customer data. I can see the number of rows and the number of columns. So I'm going to come back up to my workspace here. And I'm going to open up Power Query again, or the Dataflows Gen2, and bring in my date here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on New Item again, select the Dataflow Gen2, and I'm going to call this df_calendar. And now when this comes up, I'm actually going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to import it from a Power Query template. So something like your date that can be used and reused over and over again. This is a great way to do it. So I will click on Import from Power Query Template. Here it is, the calendar. Okay, so I'll double click on that. Notice how it's bringing in the calendar. And this is just a simple query that I created. I created it actually in the Power BI desktop. I use it a lot. Instead of creating a DAX date calendar, I create a calendar in here. So I have it all set up the way I want. If I wanted to, the code I'm going to share with you is actually going to be a text field. So if I were to copy all that, there we go, and choose copy. All right, so I have it copied to my clipboard. I'm going to come in and click on the words get data and choose a blank query, and I'm just going to paste that in. Now I'm going to leave the name blank query for right now, and I click OK, and you could see it brings in this exact same calendar. So that's how you could bring it in. So I'm going to just delete that one because I already have it listed right here. And I have this calendar starting at the year 2012, January 1st, 2012. So I'm using a calendar year calendar. And then I'll go to the very end, and then I have everything. It'll go all the way into December 31st of next calendar year. So I have it looking at more than just the state or looking more at just the data. So whatever today is, it'll always show the December 31st of the next year, because I know some people will enter data in ahead of time, and I try to make sure we have a calendar field for that. So I will choose my data destinations once more. And we'll see it when it becomes available. There it is, successfully published. So now if I come in and do a refresh, one of these refreshes, let me refresh a second time. And there it is, that unidentified, but there's the calendar. So it's processing to the calendar. And if the unidentified doesn't go away, just refresh one more time, but it should go away and resort. And now we have our calendar back. We're ready to close out our Lakehouse, so it's looking good. And in here, I do want to show you one more thing. I'm going to open up the calendar data flow. If you're in here just looking at some of the data flow and you don't want to publish or save changes, how do you get out of it? A lot of people ask me that. So you would come up to the top right, and here there is this X up here under the profile, and that will get you out of the data flow. Now you have 3 different tables inside of a Lakehouse that I can put together in a data model, and we'll do that in the next video. I hope this helps you, and I hope you learned something.